many, probably almost all of our participants, I think, initially found the transition to learning from home, really challenging. There was a loss of routine of going to school. Parents also spoke about how children were really unsettled by the sudden, swift changes. They also struggled with the idea of doing school, which is normally over there, at school, and suddenly doing it at home. But the initial difficulties, I think, went further than that. People spoke of difficulties dealing with the online learning tasks that schools were using, the online platforms. I remember one quote from a young person who said something like, it was confused about trying to figure out what to do, and it was all a bit of a mess, honestly. So they had real issues navigating those learning tasks and expectations. I think the other thing was that they found it difficult to decipher task instructions, which seem to come in like big, large chunks, really open-ended, which is, difficult for children who might have language or processing difficulties or difficulties with executive function. So there were the impacts of the loss of routine and change of routine, but I think that there were broader impacts, negative impacts, because of other things that were changing as well, like the nature of online learning and teaching, and also this not being as accessible, essentially, as it was potentially in traditional schooling.
A lot of, not all, certainly not all, but a lot of our participants talked about not being able to ask for help or not having the right conduit for help. So many of the supports that had punctuated their days and the ways that they had learnt to get around some of the things at school, and this was particularly for young people, they couldn't just ask the person next to them for clarification. They couldn't go to their learning support officer or teacher's aide to ask. And parents, teachers were maybe not as responsive, which is understandable in the sense that there was a lot going on, but that when things were difficult or there were challenges or children needed additional support, that wasn't as forthcoming as it needed to be for our kids to feel that sense of connection with their online learning and with their school and with their education. We had some amazing accounts of teachers and schools going well and truly above and beyond to provide continuity and support where possible to the students. But there were, I would say, a majority of students and parents felt that there was a lack of recognition that there would be challenges at home for them, and that really teachers and schools were so absorbed with just making things work that the needs of an individual child kind of fell by the wayside in the face of the great barrage of change that was happening at the same time. And so both parents and young people did really struggle to find ways of getting support, and that support wasn't the same as it would have been if they were in a physical school environment.
Our participants were really appreciative of all the things that teachers were doing, because obviously it was a really stressful, experience for them. Often, they had children of their own at home. But I think overall, many people felt that the work that they were receiving from schools was not individualized or not appropriate to their children's developmental level. So that is, work was being sent home that was either way too easy or way too hard. And they didn't have the kinds of supports that they might have had when they were in schooling. And then there were some quite alarming reports from parents that they had received no communication from school during lockdown. Thankfully, few and far between those reports, but nevertheless, the level of support was severely restricted, I think, during this period.